you, I served in the military, and many of you have friends and family, or yourself served, or your spouse, or your cousin, or your son served in our armed forces. And I myself have several family members who served in our armed forces, and some who died for their country. And one I especially want to highlight today is my uncle, Lieutenant Colonel Herbert Moss Mills, who died in November 1944 in Germany. My mother grew up as the youngest of 10 on a hard-scrabble, dusty West Texas ranch near Sterling City. And her second oldest brother, my Uncle Herbert, upon completion of college, joined the Army and eventually became a battalion commander of a tank battalion in the German campaign. I'd like to read you his citation for the Distinguished Service Cross because I think it highlights and epitomizes what we honor here on Memorial Day. During 16 to 18 November 1944, Lieutenant Colonel Mills, 1st Battalion, was in action against German forces at Scherpenziel and Hastenrath, Germany, during the Siegfried Line campaign. Lieutenant Colonel Mills was leading his task force over difficult terrain, across dense minefields, and through devastating enemy fire to secure a vital objective. On the initial day of the assault, one of his tanks was hit and blocked the advance of the column through a lane that had been cleared of mines. Lieutenant Colonel Mills dismounted from his tank and personally directed engineers in clearing another lane that led his force through the minefield. While reorganizing his position, a shell struck within a few feet of Lieutenant Colonel Mills, causing a severe injury of his right leg. Despite the pain, Lieutenant Colonel Mills refused medical aid and continued his personal reconnaissance on foot in order to improve his positions. Although he lost all of the officers in his medium tank company and 33 tanks, Lieutenant Colonel Mills kept his force organized and, despite fanatical opposition by the Germans, captured his objective without infantry support. While Lieutenant Colonel Mills was in the process of communicating with higher headquarters to report that his mission had been achieved, a shell struck the building above his tank and fatally wounded him. Lieutenant Colonel Mills' outstanding leadership, brilliant tactics, and extraordinary heroism during this period earned him, at the cost of his life, the U.S. Army's second highest award for valor, the Distinguished Service Cross. Despite the loss of all of the officers in his battalion, despite the loss of 33 tanks, despite a severe injury to his leg, Lieutenant Colonel Mills completed the mission, met the objective, and ultimately sacrificed his life for our freedom. In this case, freedom from the tyranny of Nazi Germany. The freedoms that we have, the opportunities that we have, the honorable law enforcement that we have, the ability to live your life as you see fit, to worship as you see fit, to raise your children in the way that you see fit, to live your life in freedom. These are not the result of government and companies and economics and foreign policy. These are the results of men and women who have sacrificed for us, who have given their blood, who sacrificed their lives so that we could live and be free in this country. And they're luminaries of our freedom, and we honor them and we salute them today. And many of them are here in this beautiful, beautiful cemetery that have lived and died for our country. When Lieutenant Colonel Mills left West Texas, he left behind a wife and a 3-month-old baby. He never got to raise that son. He never got to see that son grow up into a man. But that man is my cousin, Bart. We call him Pancho. He and I are good friends, and both of us are blessed to have Lieutenant Colonel Mills an example of heroism and patriotism in our family. And all of us are blessed to have men and women who are willing to step forward, to fight if necessary, to die and sacrifice for our freedoms, for our safety, and for our way of life. My uncle was buried in the Henri Chapelle Belgian Memorial in Belgium. Someday, I'd like to visit that place. I'd like to stand at his beautiful graveside. And we here in Montrose, we are building a Veterans Memorial for our veterans. And it's going to be next to the Botanical Garden and the Pavilion. And for decades to come, we'll be able to honor our veterans and those that fought in our wars as luminaries of freedom and sacrifice. May God bless our departed dead. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you.